First step in this process, of course, was to remove the old motherboard, which was laying in here. This is an old Intel board. It was this was my main desktop for a while, but when the motherboard quit working, I went ahead and just I bought a new case and moved everything at that time, so I had never even bothered to uninstall the motherboard. A recent project I was working on involved taking another computer that I have and replacing the motherboard to kind of upgrade the chipset a little bit, so where we would be compatible with Windows 10 and a live disk that a family member needed so that she could telecommute. So we ended up with this here motherboard, processor, and 2 gigs of RAM. Now this here is a Pentium D 3 gig. That's an older build. It's been around for a while. Um, I built this thing originally running Windows XP, and here we are many years later, and it still runs Windows 8 pretty decently. So it was a good computer when I built it, and it's still a decent computer today. 'Connecting the internal headers. What do we think? Maybe this? So we want to go to page 38. So let's do that. We will just put that's what we're after right there. Link. Yep, that's what we're after right there. You can zoom in a little bit better. And now it'll tell us what we got to do with the front panel so that we can connect all these wires here. If I can show them. All these wires here go to the front panel, and so we'll use our guide we got to tell us where to put them on the board. It's easier for me, in my opinion, it's easier to do this before you put the power supply in, because then you're not fighting the power supply wiring and all that. You can look at the pins on the board and see how there's one missing right over here. So you look at the board and you look for that empty spot and you find the orientation of this, and you realize that you're looking at it in the right way before you get going here. The only thing left now is the hard drive LED. We have a green LED and we have a green wire and a white wire. That's great. Well, let's run with the idea that the green would mean the ground. It does in household wiring. Since you have two choices, I mean, basically what's going to happen if we get it wrong is that the hard drive LED just won't work until such time as we get it right. So, looking at the orientation on the little manual we downloaded, I want the positive one towards the back, which would be the white wire in our assumption here. And if that's not right, then we'll just turn it around. It's not the end of the world. So that's that. Front panel is wired. Okay, so you got the audio. And that looks like it's got some more lint on it. Let me get that off of there. So we have our audio, and there's a block here. I don't know if I can catch that on the video or not. There's a blocked pin, so that'll help you with your orientation on that. And it'll only go one way, so we plug that in there. All right, that's out of our way. Not really out of our way, but it's done. Okay. Before we connect this, I wanted to swap the illuminated fan, I think it lights up blue, out of another case instead of this old boring black one here. So let's see if there's anything else we can connect here, and if not, wait, I got hooked up here. Oh, this is probably, there's a fan up in front here, and that goes here. Yeah. Intrusion. Okay. So it looks like we got this here for the USB ports. And a lot of times these are just single pins like we had there for our power switch or power LED. But this particular case has them all together in one simple connector. And again, you have one that has a block in it and the other are open. So that'll help you with your orientation. It'll only go one way. Since we have so much wire here, we'll just go ahead and use the rear ports here. I suppose if you had a PCI card that was going to have interference problems, you could probably move it. Let's go ahead and get that fan out of there before we get more stuff in the way. You can kind of plan ahead of time sometimes by which way you're going to mount this. Like if I mounted it over here, when I put the video card, it probably won't be a problem, but it could be with some setups. Now if I put it over here like this, well, now we got this thing flopping around, could get in the fan for our video card. So it's just things you're going to consider as you're going. Also, I'm looking at where I'm going to plug it in at, and it's going to go right in this port right here on the motherboard. Slide back so we can see that better. It's going to go right here on this pin. So if I go ahead, plug it in right here on this connector, then I can see where my wires are all going to go. And rather than and so I can kind of plan ahead for some things like maybe wrapping the cord around the fan, things like that, things that would be difficult to do once it was already screwed into place. And you end up with a little nicer install when you're done that way. So we do have this flopping around in this orientation. We could do, I really do like it like that though. See, the last thing you want to do is have this where you can get caught up in the CPU fan. Cause you to burn up your CPU one day because you moved the computer. So you'd either have to tie that out of the way or something. I think what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of wrap that on there. And then do it like we had at that one point. I thought that looked pretty neat. And like I say, we'll just go ahead and get this installed just like that. I think that takes care of most of our issues. Feels like, make sure you're not pinching wires or something behind here before you mount it, because then you'll have to take it back off to fix that. And it's just another annoyance in life that nobody needs. Lovely. So, I could be mistaken, but I think we're about ready. We're about ready to install a power supply. This here is just an old power supply I happen to have in another computer laying around. It came out of a Dell computer. I believe it will work. It's not going to be ideal. The output is not much. It even says, okay, so it's a 250 watt power supply. We're going to run a single hard drive and maybe a single DVD player. Pentium D is known for its appetite for electricity. So I don't know, man. We'll see. I'm thinking, because we're not going to run a whole lot of case lighting, we're not going to run a high-end video card, and we're not going to be running multiple drives. I think we'll be okay with that, at least temporarily. If not, I'm sure we'll find out. Okay, so that all lines up there. Now, in its original configuration, it had this wire clipped over here. I don't see that as advantageous for our installation in this machine. So this 4-pin P4 connector here, as you can see, before I put any screws in the power supply, I'm trying to plan ahead. And like I say, this coming out of a Dell computer, it had this little clip on here, right here, and it's putting wires where I don't really want them. So I'm going to remove this wire from that clip so that I can apply a little bit better cable management later on. So since we didn't mount it yet, it's just a simple matter of getting it out of there, hoping we don't snag the CPU fan wire. Right here is the clip I was speaking of, and we can just remove that there. I think the clip itself can stay, and I'd like to leave it in case I ever decide to put this back in the computer it came out of. A good place to start is always with the ATX connector. So sometimes you'll have a 24 pin and sometimes you'll have a 20 pin. If you don't have all the pins, it's not a big deal. It still work. And if you don't know which end to put it on, guess what? It'll only go on one end. So if it won't go in the hole, let's put it on the other side. So that helps you out a little bit. So that's in place. Okay. We got our P4 connector over here by the processor that we talked about earlier. There it is, right there on the back side of the CPU, right here. So, like I say, we're going to need to apply a bit of cable management to make sure that that stays out of the CPU fan once it's in place. And maybe we could actually use that clip down there on the bottom now that it's in place. So I'll get my screwdriver out and we'll see if we can push it into that clip down there just to keep it out of trouble. I'm pushing with the screwdriver. I'm not prying on my CPU cooler. That is not a good thing to do. There we go. So you plan ahead what you can and then you just deal with the rest. You try to learn along the way so that you don't repeat the same mistakes with the next build. Yeah, so I think we get us a zip tie here, and we've got a very clean installation as far as that goes. Look here where I can show what I'm doing. There we go. So I got this zip tie in place right here to hold this P4 connector, and we'll just trim off the excess. And that's a pretty clean installation, if I do say so myself. And I do. Alright, at this point we're ready to start thinking about what are we going to need for a hard drive? What are we going to need for any case lighting or fans? We do have a fan in the front of this machine, and we're going to put a hard drive down here. So right down here we're going to be mounting our hard drive down this end in these trays right here, and we're going to have a DVD drive up here on this end. So we're going to, both of those are going to require power. So looking at this, plus we also have this fan in the front of the case that's going to require power, and it's got a couple different options for all that. For some reason I have this little thing connected here. We're not going to need that for this build, so we really don't need the clutter either. Alright, so what do we have available? We're going to need 2 for power. I'm thinking maybe go with this strategy here. We'll use this end for our DVD, and then we'll use this end for the hard drive. Meanwhile, we can run our fan with this piece here. And we'll go ahead. Oh, this connector is going to give me some drama. It'll work. We'll make it work. Okay, I think it actually almost went together, but not quite. So let me get my long nose pliers and we will finesse that into place. Kind of show you what I'm fighting here. This pin here, as you can see, they all move around. Maybe you can see it, maybe not. Try to show it. The camera. These are all kind of sloppy and loose. And this black one here wants to come out when you put it together. So what we're going to have to do is make sure after we put it together that that pin actually gets connected to the other one. So let's see what we got here. So we plug it together, and then, yeah, sure enough, see, that pin has come out. So we'll just take the pliers and we will encourage it to connect. Alright, so that's in place. And that's just kind of some of the challenges you'll face working with old junk. Occasionally even with new junk. But you do want to make sure that you actually get a connection when you put that together. I think I've got that. Alright, so we're going back to our strategy here. We're going to have this will be down here, this will be going there, and this will be up here at our DVD. And just by the position everything is in, it pretty much takes care of the cable management all by itself. We'll have to tie this back, I would imagine. But for the most part, we're in pretty good shape. Alright, so what else do we need? Well, we're about ready to start putting some of our peripherals in, which would be our DVD drive and our hard drive. Again, this could have been done ahead of time had I had the foresight, but it's not the end of the world. We can still do it. On the case here, I'm going to take this panel off, this other side panel off, so that we can have access to install our hard drive and our DVD player. So that should come right off. Of course, should and would and could and do, they don't always line up, do they? So there you go. Put that aside. Going back to this, we had that little 2-pin connector. I don't remember what it runs, but we need it for something. So we plug that in there. It may actually light up the lights on the front panel or something. It's not a big thing. It's just something we got to remember to connect. So we did need that little thing we took off earlier. It was disconnected, so it's good that we found it and got it connected anyway. We can go ahead and take care of that now, rather than get in the middle of something else and forget about it later. So let's see. Coming back in here, we've got that right here. Yeah, let's see. We're doing a strategy here. How were we going to do this? This was going to be for the DVD, this wire here. We needed this for the hard drive. Probably this for the hard drive. So that leaves this one open. So we'll plug it in here. Alright, let's see if I get a DVD player put in here. Let's move this aside. We have a hard drive here. We're going to have to find the screws for that. And we have, well, this is a SATA. So we're going to need this adapter for our power supply. We got to go back to our other box here. I've got an old Blu-ray player. I really don't like it very much because it tries to close too quickly when you try to put a DVD in or whatever. That said, It's functional. It doesn't cost anything. So it also has a SATA interface. So on the hard drive, we're going to be using this screw here and this one right here on both sides. And so when you're handling the hard drive, don't clunk it around. Be gentle with it. Treat it like an egg. Let's see here. That's a pretty small screw. That might work. So we'll try that in there and see how the threads feel. Yeah, that goes right in with no forcing. I'll take 4 of these, please. So I've got 1. There's 2. There's a third one. I don't know if we're going to have a fourth, though. Yeah. I think I actually do have it. Let's see. These all look the same, but rather than get it in the chassis and start fighting with it, let's just check them. That looks good. That looks pretty good. Yeah, I think we got the hardware we need. And the last thing you want to do when you're scrounging screws up to put a hard drive in is put very long screws in. You'll break the circuit board, maybe even worse. So definitely find the appropriate length screws if you have to scrounge. Buy the right ones if you have to. So where are we at here? Alright, we have connected our hard drive. We have our fans connected and our case lighting up in the front. We need to connect a DVD player, and for that we're going to need a SATA adapter. So because this is an older power supply, we're going to have to use this adapter for the power on the DVD player. Okay, so like I said, if you look up here, you have a beveled side and a square side. The same is true with the other connector. Just line up the beveled ends and push it together. It's going to take a little grunt sometimes. So plug that in. If you look at the SATA connector here, it has a little jog on it right here. It's like an L shape. You'll line that jog up on your device as well, and it'll plug right in. Okay. You don't want it to look sloppy because we do have a window in the case. And since none of this is really all that fun to look at, I'm of the opinion it might be best to see if we could just tie them up in here. Out of sight, out of mind. Okay, I'm seeing how this can come together now. See if I can turn this where I can show you what I'm doing. We're actually going to want to tie it back here so it won't show a bunch of zip ties through the window. So we hook two of them together. Come on, man. Right there. Yeah, two of them together. SATA ports right here. SATA 1 should go to the hard drive. Let's see here. Which way does it have to be? Of course it has to be like that. So because of the angle, this particular one would not be my first choice. Although, if I use this end on the board, where's SATA 1? If I use this end on the board over here, let's try it. I mean, it's going to cover SATA 2. But look what it does for us. It gets us out of the way. So if I plug that in like that, then that already wants to push the SATA cable back out of the way so it's not cluttering up the case. And then we can plug this in right here. Yeah, I kind of like that setup. I do. So that kind of helps keep the cable management nice. Then we can use this SATA 3 over here to plug in our DVD player. And that just goes straight up here to here. Okay, a couple ways we could do this. I don't like mixing data and power very much, so my preferred method with this would be to just tuck it in here, and that way we don't have to worry about interference coming off the power cables and causing us problems with data. Why I always end up, yeah, that's not bad right there. And so we'll just push that back in the hole we're not using for peripherals, and that keeps our case nice and neat. So with that, we're ready to install the video card. Yep. Out like that. And then I can put the screw back in here. camera again. It came out of that hole. Why will it not go in that hole? It's gone. Alright. We had a modem in this slot here. There's a wire tie here. We'll get rid of that so it looks nice. So we do have a case cover. I'll put him right here. Universal. Well, this one's actually for a Dell. It may not work for us. Oh, it worked. Good. So we got to find a screw for that. That way we don't have a bunch of gaping holes in it. We got to put this adapter on the video card here. So now instead of connecting our video cable to the motherboard down here, we're going to use video card, and we will put the connector on it. Solid panel on the back side. These go in here. This goes in here. We'll set this on the floor over here. Alright, there's our video ports, and we'll just plug it in over here. Yep. And pick one of these, I guess. Only going one way. No, that's good. And then we got put that in the green one. Okay, that's all done. So we'll put the USB dongle there for the keyboard. So we can go to the computer and press the button. Alright. I'm not seeing any hard drive activity light here yet. It's working, but I don't see the hard drive light working on the front of the case, which I believe should be right here. Good news. The computer has started, and we have the lock screen for Windows 8 showing on the monitor. I guess we need to shut it off and try turning that hard drive indicator light around. See if we can make that work. Because that's just not, it's not showing us anything right now. Alright, there's the front of our case. So we'll turn on the power button to see if we get the hard drive light working. Oh, look at that. So that wasn't a reset switch, that was actually the light. Good. So I think we fixed it. And showing the screen, we've got Windows 8 starting up. Okay. We are jamming. Well, about the only thing missing now is Linux.